All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Popcorn Square. Today we're going to be talking about experiments gone bad. Our topics are going to be Alien Romulus and The Crow. Now, one of the things that we're going to launch right into here when we're talking about Alien Romulus is going to be the crazy amount of money that they're throwing at this movie, as well as what our expectations are going to be for the performance of Aliens movies. We've kind of seen them take a large kind of sideways shift with this movie compared to the last two movies that have come out. So without further ado, I'm Buttons along with
Neff.
Kage. All right, so we're going to get right into this. My expectations for Romulus, guys, it's kind of taken a downward spiral for me. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was excited because I could see that it kind of looked more like it was going back to the original Alien movies, and getting off of, Covenant and the focus on David and what was going on with him. It looks like this is going, back to, hey, we're a crew on a ship and there's aliens. So that's kind of where I was excited to see this movie head. Now, watching some of the newer trailers that have come out, I'm not quite sure how they're trying to tie it all together. Unfortunately, and this is just my opinion, is I think I've already seen the movie in the trailer, which is sad because I don't like that. I don't like watching a trailer and knowing how everybody's going to die or what the plot of the story, from end to beginning is going to be. That's just me. But I'm going to pass this off to Neff and let him give some information about his expectations.
Okay, so I expect the movie to be a solid movie. Have to agree with Buttons. They're over-marketing this film. It seems like it's coming from a place of desperation. You don't need to over-market this film. Whoever's going to watch this film is going to watch this film. I do have, I guess, a theory that Disney is probably trying to cater to a different generation than the generation they should be focused on, which is going to be your millennial generation and your baby boomer generation. I think they're trying to gather Gen Z viewers. I don't think that's going to work for this. I don't believe that a lot of Gen Z viewers of films, aka modern audience, cares about Alien or cares about the lore of Alien. So, based off the way they're marketing this film, it seems like they're trying to get as many people as possible to watch this movie. But like as Button said, with that, you start to give away too many, aspects of the movie away in the trailers. I think there's over 7 to 8 pieces of promo for this film, visual promo that is. That's too much. Alien doesn't need to do that. Alien, I don't know if I'd say it has a strong fan base anymore, but it does have a fan base. It does have a fan base that cares about the material. Whoever's going to watch this film is going to watch this film. I don't think you can cast a bigger net than the net that you have. I think the age demographic for this film is going to be between age 30 and 65. Big net to cast, but you have to look at the history of Alien and what we've got in the last 10 to 12 years. A lot of people feel like they've been burned by Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I like Prometheus. Alien Covenant wasn't the best film, wasn't the worst film, but it was watchable. There were some issues with it, but like I said, it was watchable. A lot of people checked out at that point in time. Very interesting. We've been talking about this film for a while now. We kind of talked about Prey as well, which was another Fox film, or I should say 20th Century Studios now. But it was another 20th Century film, and they had it come out on Hulu as a Hulu original. And I think it did well on Hulu, and I think they looked at the performance of that and said, hey, if we do another Alien film, after the fact, because Alien Romulus was originally supposed to be a Hulu original as well, I think they said, you know what, we kind of messed up. Let's kind of put this out on the big screen and get a lot of people on this as far as viewership goes and the audience goes. And, it's going to be a shame if the film doesn't do well. But I will say, if you do overmarket the film, especially people that know Alien, they know certain things to look for. I think if anybody watched the amount of trailers that we've all seen, they would say, yeah, we probably know 60 to 70% of the plot. I'm still personally excited about the film, but as far as visual promotion for the film, I've stopped watching visual promotion for about 3 to 4 weeks now because they're telling me too much about this film. We had a big trailer in Deadpool and Wolverine. Unfortunately, it was a trailer that I didn't want to see, but it was good cross marketing. So I think it was a good play as far as marketing the film, but once again, the trailer gave away too much info. I was actually talking to Kage this week. I was watching a video that wasn't related to Alien at all, and an ad came through, and it was another piece of promo that was showing more of the film, and I was smashing the button to skip the ad because I didn't want to see anything. I've already seen enough about this film. I don't need to see everything about it. By the time I get to this film, which it comes out this Friday, we're going to be watching it this upcoming Saturday, we already know 70% of the plot of the film. So, with that being said, I'm still excited about it. I wouldn't say the marketing team has failed at promoting the film. I think they've over-promoted the film, which I think is going to be to their detriment. But like I said, I'm excited about the film. I'm checking the seating charts for all the not trailers, but the theaters. Talk to Kage about that as well. Maybe he'll touch on that when he speaks. Very interesting how it's looking right now. I think they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. We'll see what happens going into this week. Hopefully some seats fill up. But if 40 to 50% of these theaters are not full by Thursday, there's going to be an issue as far as box office goes with this film. And it's going to be something to really break down. I think this is kind of make or break for Alien as an IP. I think if this movie does not do well, you could say that the Alien fan base is completely finished with Alien. So even with a reboot, don't think it's going to work out. But the film has to perform. We'll see what happens. I'm excited about it. I'll pass this off to Kage to finish his thoughts, and then we'll move on to the second topic.
Yeah, thanks, Neff. So me personally, I've always enjoyed the Aliens films. I've watched all of them. Obviously, I didn't watch the earlier ones because I was a baby, but but no, I'm looking at some numbers here for the franchise as a whole. So funny enough, Prometheus, aside from Alien 1 and 2, Prometheus has the highest budget. It has made the most money. Also, Prometheus had a budget of $130 million. Meanwhile, 1 had 11 million, 2 had 18 million, 3 had 50 million. Alien Resurrection, I actually really like that one, 70 million. Prometheus 130 and Alien Covenant 97. Okay, but if we look at the Metacritic scores, 1 and 2 are king. Prometheus was good. The worst one they're saying is Alien 3.
Yeah, I think, was 3 the one with the baby?
No, that was Resurrection.
That was a Resurrection?
3 was the David Fincher directed.
Oh, okay.
1992, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so, so you're talking about how well the movies have performed. How do you think, Kage, what are your expectations for this movie? Do you think it's gonna perform well, or do you think it's gonna fall?
I want it to perform well.
Okay.
I want it to perform well, again, coming from the view of a fan, I want it to do well. Do I think it's going to do well? I'm not so sure. And
How do you feel about the promotions that they've been putting out?
I feel like the promotions have kind of been weak, in comparison to, say, Deadpool, which I've seen everywhere. Prior to the week seeing it, I've seen so many ads, whether I wanted to or not. Just like Neff said, trying to avoid trailers because we want to see these movies, right? And I saw Deadpool promotion everywhere. I saw on social media, there's posters, trucks driving by. I think I even saw something cool in Tokyo. They had a truck driving around with a giant statue of Deadpool lying on its side. It looked pretty cool. That's how you promote a movie. I've seen virtually no promotion for Alien Romulus aside from trailers here and there. And of the trailers they're showing, just like Neff said, showing way too much. They're showing way too much. Like, you can still, there are ways to promote a movie without showing all the best scenes.
Yeah, no, and I agree, because I remember when we saw what probably would have been considered the first teaser trailer for the movie, and this was, as Neff mentioned, back when it looked like it was still going to be strictly for Hulu. They basically just kind of show the ship itself kind of empty, and then you kind of hear screaming and different noises. And to me, it looked very, like they had a lot of color in it, and it almost seemed to me like it was a completely different movie. And so with the next trailer that came out, it looked way more like an Alien movie. Like the first teaser one was, I wasn't even sure if it was an Alien movie. It was that off the wall as far as, the content that was in it. But the second one, I was excited, and I feel like they should have stopped there. I felt like that second trailer was more than enough to say, hey, look, this is going to be an Alien movie, and, get people excited about it. And, one of the things that when you're watching the original movies, the first two, I think, are king in the franchise. I feel like
Agreed.
those were the best. And again, as you mentioned, those had very low budgets. They were, building the franchise really in those first two movies.
And something I want to add with those two earlier movies, that was practical. That was
A
shot,
lot more practical effects,
because
correct.
in the 80s and 90s, we did a lot of stuff, animatronics, puppetry, we made costumes and all that stuff, and now we can CG the hell out of a movie, and it's a real shame what things have become nowadays in cinema. So that's what made it scary, is you watch these aliens running around killing people, even
They
the
were
face
on
huggers.
very practical
It was
sets
very
and
practical.
everything, yeah.
So back in the day, you were like, I believe that that
Right.
looks pretty real. How in the hell did they do that? And when you're questioning how is that real, like when you blur that line, that's when you have something good.
Oh yeah, and if you ever look up, I'm sure you could find tons of videos online about the making of the first couple of Alien movies, and they discuss a lot of those practical effects, because back then, as you were saying, they didn't have other options. CG, and different green screen effects and things like that would just make your movie look awful the way that they would do green screen technology back in the day. So it looked more believable to have those practical effects really go into detail. And, yes, some of them you could sit there and say, oh, yeah, you could tell it was an animatronic, or you could tell it was, a prop piece or something like that. But even still, I think that it gave actors more to work with as well. When something's coming at you and you can physically see it move towards you with all of the different makeup effects and things that they would do with those prosthetics and animatronic puppets, as you mentioned, I think it was a lot easier for them to get into that mindset and truly show the terror or, the fear on their face, that something's about to attack you, or, you're hiding from it kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Good point.
So for me, with these movies, we can definitely say that they're all CG now. There's not going to be a whole lot of practical effects anymore, just because it's cheaper. It's a lot
So
easier.
this one, Fade Alvarez said he is leaning more into practical stuff.
Yeah, so it'll
And
be
so I saw
nice to
some
see
of
how
the
that
me
goes.
featurette footage. They're on like a real set. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh yeah, it's not. So there's some CG in there, obviously, but I think I'd say if most films, as far as films that are in this category, what would you say CG ratio is?
For
Like
this
for
particular
movies,
Romulus?
in just
Oh,
in this
just
genre.
in general. Oh, okay. So
80-20, 70-30.
I'd say 70-30 is probably a good.
CG.
Yeah,
70-30.
70-30.
So this
yeah.
movie looks about 60-40 to me.
Yeah.
A lot of the, I think the xenomorph they're using, that's someone in a suit. I think the set that they're on with the ship, that's a real set. The face huggers they said are real.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can tell
yeah,
with
they're
that a
bringing
little
that
bit
back.
more, yeah.
So just a lot of those things that you would typically see them going, oh, we're gonna CG that real fast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Excited for the film. Like Buttons was saying, there's actually two great documentaries that actually go through the making of Alien 1 and 2, and they're about 3 hours each. Absolutely phenomenal. I've watched them both multiple times. Pretty good if you're into Alien, especially into Alien lore and stuff like that. I like watching the creation and inception of an idea come to life. So those are two great documentaries, and those are on YouTube. And I think they
I will
might be
be
part of a
looking those
collector's
up.
edition. They might be on like Aliens Collector Edition,
Oh,
Aliens
okay,
Collector
right.
Edition. But those are great documentaries if you guys are into looking into the background of Alien and Aliens. But yeah, very excited for Romulus. We'll see what happens. Think this is going to be make or break for Alien. Hopefully this film does well. Next, we're talking about the budget of this film.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 110 to 150.
So I think that's a great range, especially if this movie does not perform well. You'd hate to think that they'd thrown 200 plus at this, but to be honest, I think they are closer to that 200 mark, just because the amount of effects that are going into this that I'm seeing so far, and practical effects, back in the day, they were the cheaper option, but now I think that's kind of flipped. I think now practical effects is more expensive than the CG effects that they have out there, just because it requires physical material to be, handcrafted and painted, and that takes time and effort and, professional artists to make all of those different prop sets and pieces. And yes, I think, obviously computer programs, are gonna take more time and detail in terms of the minutia of it to make it fit within the filmed space, so that it doesn't look so out of place in there. But I still think that those practical effects that are on there, that's multiple pieces being recreated every time, back when they used things like claymation and actual robots or movable pieces, that required multiple shots and takes, and then they had to piece and edit it all together to make it look cohesive. And we've seen the difference in style and effect that creates when you still have those films that use those processes. But it's great, because I did not know that, Neff, about the fact that they're using more practical effects in this movie, because I felt like with Covenant and even with Prometheus, they leaned a little bit more into the CGI, and in some ways, with Prometheus, I felt like it didn't hurt the movie, but with Covenant, I felt like it did, just because it didn't seem like they had pieced it together within the movie as well as they did with Prometheus.
I think every variation of an alien in Covenant was CG.
Yes, I agree.
That's the difference.
I think that's only increased as time goes on, just like with what Button said. It's now cheaper to hire a team of engineers or whatever to get on a computer and
Some
make.
engineers. They're gonna hire some engineers for the Alien movie.
I don't know, man. Look at that budget.
Did you get it? Engineers.
Yeah,
Engineers.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's something I do want to point out, though, too. When I'm looking at all the numbers, Prometheus had the highest budget, and it also made the most money out of all of them. And I think a good part of the reason why is that movie came out in 2012. Before that, we had Alien Resurrection, which came out in 1997.
Yeah, I think
they
there was a
wanted the
big pull to come back.
Well, right.
The
If you're
fans.
bringing back a franchise that's been dormant for a while, we got to go big. We got to go hard. We got to put our money in. We have to get a big cast. We have to up the ante on everything, and that's why it costs so much. So then, from a money perspective, it did very well. I really enjoyed Prometheus. Covenant, not going to talk about that, but it was, it didn't hit because it was all the hype. We can talk about it now. It's been ages, but Prometheus was good. We never talked about the origin of the aliens before. I thought that was really bombastic, going to the place where it all started. I thought that was fascinating. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a sucker for origin stories. So this was, and I love sci-fi, I love origin stories, so it was a good marriage of both, so to speak. But when they said at the end of the movie, we're going to go to their world, and that's how they ended it. It's like, you know, and
all
it's like,
excited.
you have me. I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I want to take my money. You know, here's my money. And then the movie came out, and I'm like, oh, killed Elizabeth Shaw right out the gate. David is, what are you doing? You know, that was my thoughts on it. So I think it was a letdown in a lot of regards. But we haven't had an alien movie since 2017. It's been a while. Are they going to come back with a bang? You know, the fact that they're using more practical effects, I think that's a step in the right direction. But time will tell how this is going to do.
What do you think the budget's going to be from what you've seen?
From what I've seen, I really don't think it's going to hit 100 mil.
So 80, 90?
Yeah.
That'd be a good budget.
Yeah, that would be a solid budget for the movie. I mean, I do know, you know, based off of what I've seen in the previews, they are obviously going to use some CG.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the scene where you kind of see the alien moving around and her chest, that one crew member's chest. So I mean, that's obviously CG. That's not.
It's not real?
I know, right? It's so practical. All those practical effects. Like, it was
They
crazy.
should not have shown that in the trailer.
No, I think that would have been better to have seen in the movie. But you know, it's always been one of those fun little pieces in a lot of the alien movies to see something coming out of, you know, the little just busting out of the chest. I mean, so I think maybe the fact that they had that in there was a nod to the originals as far as you know, having the face huggers and having something bursting out of your chest. Like that's just like core to
It's
the,
iconic.
yes.
Well, again, because we haven't had an alien movie in a while, and the last one wasn't that well received, they want to say, "Hey, everybody, we're going back to our roots. Look, here's proof. Here we're going back to that."
And
But
I feel like if they had used that in a teaser trailer and not shown anything else, then it would have been solid, because you would have been like,
Yeah.
oh, what is this? Oh, it's definitely aliens. Look,
But-
something's busting out of her
but
chest. Like that's,
I will
and that would have
say
been fine. And that
that
would have been okay.
That
That's it.
scene, though, even if they showed that as a teaser,
Mm-hmm.
that would pique the interest of the 30-somethings and up. You know, a 20-year-old, you know, it's not gonna hit with them
Yeah.
as strongly as it does with older folks. You know, when all you got to do is show me a face hugger, show me something skittering through a corridor in a sci-fi movie, and I know that's alien. If I see a 10-second snippet of a chest burster, I know exactly that's alien.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. They didn't
Yeah.
need to show a ton of extra.
Like you had me.
material.
If all you showed was that, I'm like, oh, an alien movie's coming out. I'm on board. Let's go. That's all you had to show me to
Yeah.
get me excited.
Yeah, so I think we all made good points there. We shall see what happens on Saturday. Very excited about it. We'll definitely be reporting afterwards on Alien. Yeah, hope this movie does well. And hope it does well so that we can get, you know, if this film is good, which I think it's going to be a good film, hopefully we can get some more installments. I don't necessarily know where they're going to go with the story here. If anybody does not know, this film is set in between Alien and Aliens, okay? So this is kind of like in between that prequel, not prequel range.
like
you
a-
know
it's
what
like
I
a-
mean?
it's like a Rogue
Yeah,
One.
this is a different story with different characters, but it's in the same universe,
Yeah.
and it looks like it's gonna, you know, carry the same essence of Alien, right? So it's not gonna get too far away from what we know here, guys. So yeah, if you guys are excited about it, please let us know. But the next topic we're gonna talk about is The Crow. Yes, The Crow 2024. You know, I'm sure some of you guys have heard about The Crow before, of the 1990s. It was 96, starring
was,
Brandon Lee.
Yeah, Brandon Lee.
Yeah, 96 The Crow. So they're doing, you could say it's a remake.
It's kind of a remake reboot.
Right.
Now we.
What do you think about that, Buttons?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go ahead and go a little bit into the Crow. So earlier in our one of our previous podcasts, I spoke about the Crow a little bit because they had just started to tease that they were going to be doing this movie and they hadn't set a date yet. Obviously, I had thought it was coming out later in the year, but they've actually moved it up a little bit from what I had originally heard as far as the release date, which I think is good. I think it's coming out kind of right around the end of summer, so it's
Right.
going to be like, one of those movies that kind of launch you into fall.
Right.
So, I think it's a good time for it to come out because I think if they had waited till like the end of October or even November timeframe, which I think was what it was originally set for, I think it would not have been able to compete with, the movies coming out around that time.
Right.
This movie, The Crow, is a very dark movie. All right. So the original one with Brandon Lee,
And that's 1994, guys. Kage just showed me that. Not to cut Buttons off, but I'm interested. If it's 1994 and it's 2024, that's 30 years.
Right.
So I wonder if the release comes on some type of anniversary. I'm just throwing that out there. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're
that
making
up.
a direct correlation. I mean,
Right.
obviously
Just curious. I'm
Beetlejuice,
curious. Right.
Beetlejuice, they made a very specific date, because it was like, in the ticker tape that he had, for his waiting ticket, in the original movie.
So yeah, May 13th, 1994, the original Crow came out. So that was like really.
Oh,
you could-
May 13th for the US.
So you could say that was really a summer film.
Yeah, it
You
would've
know what
been
I
a
mean?
summer
And
release.
this is still summer, but it's towards the end.
Right.
Well, go ahead, Buttons.
Yeah, so, yeah, so for the Crow, for anybody who's not familiar with this, movie, it is based off of a graphic novel. It was, I believe, Dark Horse, but I'm not positive on that. If somebody can double check that, just so that, the fans don't, come and chase me down and attack me. But,
Publisher, Caliber Press, Sumerian Comics, Image Comics, yeah.
so not Dark Horse then. So anyway, it's got a tragic story, obviously, to begin with, and then of course it compounded with the death of the main actor. He, died on set due to some blanks that lodged, and they were shooting. And they didn't do what they were supposed to do, as blanks are supposed to do, and he ended up dying from
wonder-
injuries inflicted by the blanks that were put in the.
Is that the same thing that happened recently with,
Are you talking about?
Well, it wasn't blanks.
Yeah,
that.
they had taken out the blanks and they were using the gun for like shooting practice or something. And then that was rust. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. No, those were real bullets in a real gun. With Brandon Lee, they were blanks that misfired or were not made correctly or something to that effect. But anyway, the movie itself looks like a direct remake or reboot of it. It is starring
Bill
Bill
Skarsgård?
Skarsgård, correct. So I've really liked a lot of his films that he's done recently. He is playing a little bit more of kind of like this dark action hero. In this movie, he's not really a superhero. He's more like an anti-hero.
yeah, more accurate,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the idea is that he gets attacked. They think he's dead. He's actually comes back and he can't die throughout the rest of the movie until he gets his revenge. Basically, he's out for blood because his
Fiancé.
girlfriend, fiance, however you want to call it, has been murdered. So that's the gist of the movie. I won't give anything else away. I'm sure for anybody who likes these kind of dark stories, I mean, you've probably already seen the original. It looks like they're sticking fairly close to the source material, which is great. I feel like, when they start deviating and trying to change the story, it kind of pollutes it and it makes it less desirable for me to go watch it. But for me, it does look a little bit more colorful than the original. Like I'm seeing a lot more color, whereas the original Crow had a very dark gray, black. Almost like a noir film to it. I mean, the blood really stood out, but that was, an artistic choice, obviously. But this, it looks like there's some brighter colors, a little bit more, color play, which, again, it's an artistic choice. I don't know how it's going to impact the film. It probably won't impact the film at all. I do know there was a couple of scenes that when you're watching the original one, because it's shot that way, it's kind of hard to see what actually is going on. So that might be why they're making it to where it's not quite so dark and dingy looking, just so that you can more easily see what's going on, especially for those big, fighting scenes. You're going to have a lot of movement, a lot of action. You want to see what's going on instead of, them just kind of stumbling around in the dark. And you're like, oh, something broke. I heard, oh, there was a crash and a bang and some glass broke. I don't know who's winning. I don't know who's losing.
Right. Then
so
all the lights come on and everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And John Wick appears. His job is done.
Yeah, so I mean, the Crow definitely, the original looked very dark, and I made the comparison to like a Tim Burton, like when he did Batman. So as far as the darkness goes, this one it does look a little bit more colorful. So I have hopes that. I want this movie to perform well. I like Bill Skarsgård. I think that if they're going to pick somebody, I feel like he was a good choice as far as, being somebody who's not stereotypically cast in the roles such as this. But he does have the ability to do that kind of darkness. So I feel like, he's up there as far as popularity, but he's not the same actor that you would see in every one of these films. So I think casting wise, that's a great choice for the studio to have picked him. I'm going to pass it off to Neff. I know you haven't seen the original with Brandon Lee, but just based off of watching the trailer for this movie, what are your thoughts?
So I was talking to Kage about this, and I said it in our group chat. Aesthetically, like you said, the 1994 film looks way darker, and it really just reminds me of one of those films from the 90s. It's almost like a nostalgic look to it. It gives you that feeling, you know what I mean? Because there was a lot of films in that era that had that dark look in that particular time as well. This one, like you said, more colorful. I also had stated that this seems like a Crow for a modern audience, right? So I don't know how big the Crow audience is. To me, I think this is very niche, but I think what they're doing is trying to appeal to a new audience to basically put out the new Crow, right? I think Bill Skarsgård is going to do great in his role. I think FK Twigs is in there. That's his girlfriend or fiance or whatever. I don't know about her acting chops so much, but I think she'll do decent enough. I think it's really going to focus more on Bill Skarsgård's performance. I think he's kind of, I think he's kind of at the helm for that. I think he's going to carry the film, and I think he'll do good in the film. Is the film going to be a good film? I don't know. There looks like to be some visual things that are pretty cool with it. To me, when I saw it, it looked more like an action film more than anything. Whereas when I saw the 1994 trailer, it didn't look so much like an action film. It looked like there was action within the film, but it didn't look like he was focusing on the action. And with this, it looks more like an action film with some dark undertones to it. You know what I mean? So very interesting. I don't know what this movie's going to do, honestly. I wonder what the budget is. When I looked at the trailer, it looks like about 60 to 70 to me. It doesn't look like you're going to see too much CG.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to have more practical.
It looks
effects.
very practical, very realistic.
I think they even have like a real crow in there because there's a scene where you see a crow flying next to Skarsgård. I think it's a real crow.
Nice. Yeah, so I think if that budget, if the budget's low, you can make some money off of it. But I just don't know how strong the audience is for this film. Once again, Alien obviously has been around way longer than The Crow, has a bigger fan base than The Crow, but this kind of falls into the same, category where it's like how many people from 1994 are still crazy about The Crow enough to actually go watch a new version of The Crow.
Yeah.
Don't know if there's a big audience for that. So that's why I think they're catering to a new audience.
Something that you're bringing up that I do want to touch on real quick, just because when I was talking to my boyfriend after we watched Borderlands, you know, in the theater, they have all the posters up that are for the movies that are coming out soon. And, you know, we saw posters for everything that looked like it was either a sequel or a remake of these movies. I mean, like, we saw a poster
Yeah.
for Paddington Bear 3.
Yeah.
We saw, you know, posters that we're just looking at, you know, the Mufasa, which is, you know, a spin-off of, again, another 90s movie, you know, and it's also a sequel to when they did the live action Lion King. So, I mean, we're seeing a lot of this material get recycled, rebooted, and not a whole lot of new, fresh material coming out from, you know, from a person from the outside looking in. And I don't know if that is simply because studios are trying to recapture something with what they've done previously, and they're just like, well, we already own the IP for this material, let's just add on another chapter, or, you know, recycle it with some new cast, maybe do a gender swap, maybe do a, you know, a fresh, you know, like you said, cater to the newer generation, spin on things. And a lot of the times, for me, with the things that that they've done that with, it either becomes diluted or it becomes something that is more, you know, geared towards like promoting an actual woke agenda or something to that effect. It's like, oh yeah, you remember this TV show from the 70s and how awful it was and how it had all these stereotypes and, you know, sexist things or whatever. Let's reboot it and revamp it and make it as politically correct as we can. And they're expecting the audience members from, you know, that were watching the show in the 70s, which would have been your baby boomers, or, you know, your older millennials, to sit down and want to watch this and go, oh yeah, this is even better than the original. And they're like, no, this is trash. Like, I'm not enjoying how you recycled my childhood or the movies that I loved as, you know, as a teen or whatever, and made it into this new, you know, trash movie or show.
Good point. Funny enough, and to piggyback off that, but good point. I feel like the only time that they can actually get away with what we're saying is with children's films, because you
Yes.
cast a huge net,
Yeah.
and so especially when it's animated. But when it comes to these remakes, reimaginings of films that are catered to adults, they just don't seem to do well.
Yeah,
We've seen this with multiple franchises that we liked that might have started in the 70s and 80s, and they've tried to reboot them, reimagine them, right? Or even remake them, and it does not hit the same. You know, you can't really change too much, but it's kind of hard because you're rebooting it. So you have to change something, or what's the
Right.
point of rebooting it? You know what I mean? But typically the changes don't favor the studio.
Correct.
Kage, what
Yeah.
you got?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we've talked about this in a few episodes in the past, just talking about the problem in Hollywood where they don't have any more ideas. They keep making sequels. They keep doing reboots. They keep doing, you know, that's all they can do. How many Fast and the Furious movies? How many Matrix? Oh my God, Matrix! You know, how many franchises can we beat to death? You know, because it's so much easier to tack on another story or reimagine than it is to actually get in a writing room and try to make
Especially
something
if it worked
new.
before.
And it's
Yeah.
especially because they don't have. I think it's kind of a.
It's a risk
lazy.
otherwise.
It's
And what we're starting to see is, even if it doesn't work on the reboot, they double down on it, which is
Right.
very interesting. It's like, oh wow, they didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, there shouldn't be another Matrix. Like, you know what I mean?
Agreed.
But they're doubling down on this stuff. And so, like we said with Alien Romulus, we want this movie to do well. Production value looks like it's there. You got good cast, you have good director, writers look solid, good studio. You know, movie should do well. If Alien Romulus doesn't do well, am I going to be pounding the table for another Alien film? Probably not, sad to say. You know what I mean? But the movie should do well. I think if it's good quality and it doesn't do well, then they need to go back to the room, like basically to the war room, and figure out, what did we do wrong here? Because the movie's good quality, the reviews are great, but it's not performing. So that's another issue, right?
Yeah.
So there's two things they got to try to tackle if that happens. Now, if the movie is good and it does well, you don't have to worry about that. If the movie's good and it doesn't perform well, that's going to be a very tricky spot, because you want to keep making good product, but you can't keep going in the hole. So you need to try to find a balance there. Now, if the movie isn't good, I don't expect that. But if it's not good and it doesn't do well, you know, you kind of gotta figure out, is this thing finished? You know what I mean? I think this is really the make or break film for Alien
Well,
as an IP.
Well, yeah, and
What
kind
do
of
you think about The Crow though? And then
Yeah.
back on that Alien topic.
Well, I was gonna say like Alien has a well-established franchise going back to the 70s.
Yep.
Crow had one movie.
Right.
Right.
It's a one movie. So
Well,
and
I mean, and
it was
that-
niche back. It was niche back.
Super niche.
It was niche back then. It was
Yes.
very underground back then. And if you talk about the Crow, people most likely you're going to hear 20-somethings go, "Oh, I saw the trailer for the Crow." We're not talking about that. We're talking about the '90s version before you were ever thought of. You know what I mean? It's extremely niche. So it's time's going to tell how this movie does. It's going to have a very small audience. Now, who knows? This could be a total sleeper, and it'll be like Furiosa and get great reviews, but nobody watches it
Right.
because nobody knows what it is.
Right.
And tacking that on to Alien Romulus, who knows? Is it going to be like Furiosa? I think Furiosa is the most surprising film of 2024, in my opinion, because it was really
Good point.
good. It got good reviews, but nobody watched it.
I didn't watch it.
See?
Yeah. Furiosa was great.
It was great.
I know, like I said, I know.
And
I know
people
we
that
spoke
criticize
about it, before,
it's
yeah.
like, what did you watch? Because I thought it was great. First 30, 45 minutes, okay, they could have
It was-
sped it up a
it
little
was-
bit. Like, they could have sped it
But
up
I
a little
mean,
good,
just those-
but they're trying to build up her character. It wasn't an anti-Mad Max movie. And Mad Max is actually in the film, but he's an Easter egg. Most people missed that.
This is
Anyway,
a
but
prequel
yeah.
before.
Right. I thought it
before-
was
yeah.
great. It wasn't a girl boss movie, as they like to say on these YouTube channels.
Yeah, I
Not at
enjoyed
all.
it.
Like, it was pretty well balanced. But yeah, Furiosa, great film. But good point, Kage. Like you said, film that's good doesn't perform well. So, like I said, very interesting. I've kind of surmised that Alien is one of those franchises where you have a percentage of people that feel burned from Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and they're not going to watch this film no matter what because, hey, they feel burned by Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Unfortunately, that's part of your main demographic. You need those people to come watch this film
Right.
because that's that age range that understand the lure of Alien, right? So if you piss them off, you're kind of in a weird position there. Then you have Gen Z, which I don't think cares about Alien at all, and then you still have people that are fans of Alien that are in that demographic that we talked about, 30 to 65, like us, right? That are interested in this still, even with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and we're giving it a chance. But we're just going to have to see who comes out and actually watches the film. Time
Yeah.
will tell. What you got, Buttons?
I was just going to say, when you're looking at, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Kage was mentioning, as far as The Crow only had the one movie originally. I think when you look at the story, the character itself of The Crow, I'm wondering if the studios chose this time to bring this character out because DC has not been performing well. But we still are on that tail end of superhero movies. Not that The Crow is a superhero, but he is fitting the bill in terms of character development to be similar to, what would have been like the Sin City movies. It's got that dark undertone, but also kind of like a Batman feel. You're in a city that's full of crime and chaos, and then you have the guy step forward as this dark Avenger. So that's kind of his character in a nutshell in terms of what his background is within the world that The Crow takes place. So, seedy underbelly kind of, feels. And I think that maybe they're pulling his character out there for that reason, because if you're going to go up against some superheroes and the DC market has not been performing well, then his character comes across as like this very intriguing, dark anti-hero. And, maybe, like you said, the 30-year time gap between the movies, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but, they did give it a long, stretch. And I feel like if Brandon Lee had not died with the first movie, I feel like it would have gotten a sequel because they leave it wide open for the story to continue with his character as an anti-hero. So in terms of this particular movie, they could launch it, if it does well in theaters, they could launch it into a series that I could see making 2 or 3 movies out of.
Nice.
But again, you got to know who your target audience is and whether or not this is going to pull them forward. As you mentioned, I'm sure it's targeted towards a younger audience to see if it's not Marvel and it's not DC, can we capture the attention of the audience and bring them in for something that is very, still like a superhero movie without being in direct competition with the 2 franchises.
Yeah, and looking at this trailer, like you were saying, to me, it just looks like it's geared towards your modern audience. It doesn't look like it's geared toward millennials or anybody older than that. Just aesthetically, it doesn't look like that. So,
Right.
yeah, I think we had a great conversation there, guys. Alien Romulus in theater this Friday, August 16th, and The Crow, August 23rd. Guys, we will definitely be giving our reviews on this when we get back and record. But if you guys are excited about those films, please let us know. Please let us know if you're going to watch those films. And then when we review these films, we want to hear what you think if you did see these films. Like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell for notifications. Always stay tuned for another broadcast of the Popcorn Square and the Weekly. I think that's all we got here, guys. Buttons, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Kage, anything else?
We're good.
Share with a friend, guys. Be safe.